Noah, we're live. Thank you for being here.
No problem. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just right off the bat, people want to know, and we're going to dive into it. Um, your name. I'm not going to say the name, but it's seen as a derogatory term for trans people, and it's derogatory term for Trump. That's the name of your group account that you have on TikTok. Where did that name come from, and why do you have that as your name?
So, it started out as a group chat, a texting group chat with my
Mm-hmm.
friends and I, who have the account. And I'm just like, hey, what if we made a TikTok? And you know, it's a little controversial. My personal view is if it's not used as a derogatory term and it's just in referring like to our account, and I've tried to make that clear. I don't have a problem with it. I can't speak on the behalf of the entire trans community or anything, but we don't really see it as a problem. And if we really didn't want people to say it, we wouldn't have it as our name, I guess.
Mm. Um, so it would be a little bit like if I had an account as a gay man. It was like faggots for whatever, or like in support of
Yeah.
that, like because I can say that word that you feel that that's appropriate for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And like,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, like we really don't have a problem with people saying it as long as it's not like, hey, you T word, go burn in hell or whatever. We don't
Right.
really have a problem with it as long as it's not used in a derogatory term or way, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that, and not everybody has that opinion. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm cannot speak for the behalf of the trans community.
uh, so what made you want to start this group? You said that it was a group chat, and how did that initial ball get rolling for you to start a group that's about trans people advocating for Donald Trump?
Yeah, so I met Sam like 10 months ago, maybe. And I met Cole through Instagram um, 6 months ago. And we kind of found it crazy. Oh, we all kind of share the same political beliefs despite being trans. There's probably more people like this. We should speak up about this kind of stuff, spread
Mm.
awareness. And, we thought it would be fun and we just decided to make it. And, we are not famous or big by any means, but we have a decent following and we made some friends and stuff from the account. So yeah, it's cool. I
Sure.
enjoy it.
I think you were. I mean, last time I checked, like when I was promoting it, you were around like 36K, which is a good size following.
Yeah,
So clearly people are interested in what you have to say. Uh,
yeah.
so what? Tell me about your personal views. So you're a conservative or you're a Trump supporter. Have you always been a Trump supporter? Have you always been raised in a conservative environment, or is that how did that begin?
So I guess my dad is conservative, not super, I don't know, crazy
Hmm.
radical, but conservative. My mom doesn't really care. She's just supportive of whatever we like to do. Um, and for a while, I was like taught that being trans, you couldn't be a conservative. That it goes against everything that you believe in. And through my dad and through other trans conservatives on the internet, I'm like, wait, I don't really fit the kind of you know normal trans leftist liberal kind of, I don't know, box. I don't. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, despite what people think about being trans and conservative, it's really not that contradictory when you look into it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, looking into it, that's something that I look forward to doing here with you.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, just in my world, like I don't know many trans people that uh, advocate for Donald Trump at all. I mean, we had Caitlyn Jenner, who was popular a few years ago, that kind of came out in support of Donald Trump. She then rescinded that. Um, I guess what is it? Stamp of approval.
Mhm.
But so you were kind of raised in a conservative environment, and you kind of just realized that there are other conservative trans people out there. What attracts you specifically to Donald Trump, that makes you want to give him your endorsement?
Well, first of all, I guess what he's done for the country, what he's done for the LGBT community. I know it's kind of weird to say that, I guess, um, but no, he's done a lot. Stuff that he's done, stuff that he stands for. I really agree with his policies and everything he's done, and I'm like, well, if people keep saying that he's transphobic, I'm gonna look into that, and I found, a lot of BuzzFeed articles that people didn't, really read past the headlines. And I looked into it. And I'm like, I really like this guy. He's not transphobic, and he's a good person to support. And, yeah.
Is picking Mike Pence, who's been on record talking about conversion therapy and advocating for that when he was governor of Indiana, is that not alarming to you, or is that something that, how do you define the two between Trump and his vice president pick?
Yeah. So we get asked this a lot. What I say is, by supporting Trump, I do support Pence. But I don't think that you have to agree with 100% of the things that somebody says to support them. I mean, obviously, he hasn't really done anything about that. He hasn't tried to do anything about that. Quite the opposite. I don't support what he said, but I support what they stand for. I support pretty much everything else, almost. So.
Okay. What about? Let's just talk specifically about like Trump's trans military ban, because that is a topic that obviously applies to you and to the trans community and to the LGBT community in general. How do you, as a trans individual, look at Donald Trump passing something like that and advocating for something like that, and then still support him or stand by it?
Yeah. So I was kind of hoping that you brought that up. We've actually made a few videos on this. There is a lot of misinformation about that. And we can go into it. I'd love to, but basically,
yeah, please.
Okay, so if you want me to just start, so the military ban, I think if you're at the beginning of your transition, I think a year, I don't know the dates correctly, but if it's like a year or 2 years maybe into your transition, you have been on HRT for a while, you have to wait to enlist. And being on like hormones, steroids, or whatever you want to call it, to transition into be trans, whether it's testosterone or estrogen, that's not allowed in the military. Even for trans people, it's kind of like a necessity. It's not allowed in the military.
Well, it's not a necessity. There's plenty of trans people that choose to either postpone or decide to never go on hormones or any type of transition like that. But keep going.
Yeah, of course there are. But, for some trans people, maybe the majority of trans people who wish to go on hormones or do go on hormones, that is not allowed in the military. So you can be trans in the military. You can go in the military. You just can't be on hormones. And there's another aspect about mental health. I don't know if this is a little touchy. I won't, go too into it. But basically, the big thing about the mental health in the military is, you have to have like a clean everything. You have to be in tip-top shape. And a lot of trans people, and obviously not all of them, but a lot of trans people, being trans comes with its own set of difficulties and mental illness and stuff, with dysphoria or I guess depression, suicide, anxiety. They can't have that in the military. You need to be in your tip-top shape. You can be trans in the military, you just need to be in your tip-top shape. And a lot of trans people really aren't. I can't speak for all of them. A lot of them are in a good place too. But, it's kind of iffy. It's like that with any mental illness, any disability. It's not just trans people. It's not meant to discriminate. It's kind of just meant to keep everybody in their tip-top shape, I guess. So, yeah.
Sure. I understand the mental health aspect of things. And they do have health, or they have mental and physical examinations that every service member goes through when they enlist, which would include trans people. And I think that, were you saying that trans people aren't banned from serving? Is that what you were saying?
There are restrictions, but if you are trans, if you identify as trans, there's really nothing that says, oh, you cannot be trans. maybe you can't really be on hormones, or if you've been on hormones for this amount of time, or if you have bad mental health, you can. But if you're just transgender, you can't be it's fine. You're good to go.
I don't know about that because all the articles I've read, all it says that there is an open ban on transgender people from serving. That it doesn't have anything to do with whether they're on hormones or not. It says if they do identify as transgender, then they are barred from serving in the military, which would revert to the "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" policy, which was revoked by Obama in 2012. So "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" policy was basically, it applied to every LGBT people, but for like gay people, you weren't allowed to come out as gay in the military. And I've had a former Marine or Navy guy on this podcast who served in the "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" era, and he was talking about just how traumatizing it is laying in your bunker at night and having the secret that you're not allowed to tell other people. And so I guess we might be a little misunderstood there on what the Trump military ban actually is, because I'm looking at a Vox article right now. I know Vox gets shit on a lot, but that's just one of the articles I found that does say that Trump asked federal courts to ban transgender people from serving in the military, and that's not just the headline. Do you have? What are your sources on rebuttaling that, if possible?
Yeah, I don't really have anything with me right now. I could post some things up for the future. I could post on my account or whatever, but I do not have anything right now. If there's new information I'm not sure about, then I'm open to, hearing that and everything. I just don't have anything with me right now.
Well, the thing is, Trump bans transgender people from serving in the military, and he cites cost as one of the main factors, meaning that if the military health insurance has to cover for gender reassignment surgery or transition surgery, then that would be the major factor in why they would want to get rid of that or not allow trans people in the military. So
Yeah.
I still think we're a little bit misunderstanding here, because I do believe that if a trans person that's listening to this podcast that was of age and that did pass the mental and physical health examinations went to go sign up tomorrow, I don't think they would be let in.
I'll have to do my own research on that, but yeah, if that is true, it's probably now I guess this goes kind of to healthcare. Again, like you said, with the cost, with all that kind of stuff, I understand where they're coming from. Yeah, it is costly if they have all these trans people on hormones and stuff in the military. We have a stance on healthcare and everything, so we kind of see that, I guess, a little different. We don't believe in free healthcare and stuff, I guess. And if you want to be in the military and you want to be trans, maybe hormones isn't the best option. It kind of sucks, but again, kind of the tip-top shape thing.
Well, a study from RAND, which is an institution that puts out a lot of economical studies and things like that, they cited that the cost of having transgender people serving in the military would be around $2.4 million to $8.4 million annually to fund their reassignment surgery or to fund their hormonal procedures. And that is literally just a drop in the bucket. Like that's like for the military budget, that's like it's under 1% of 1% of 1%. It's like literally just a tank. Like, don't build an extra tank that's going to go sit in some fort in Georgia. Like, you can have trans people serve. So I guess my point is, like, is how do you look at this and not feel threatened by it or feel excluded or feel discriminated by the president that you support?
I guess I've always heard one thing from people, doing my own research. I'm going to double check.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure now where I stand. I'm very open about changing how I feel and everything. Um, you know, I'm gonna do my own research. If
Hmm.
everything that you know you've said or whatever is like citable and everything, then my views might change. It's intimidating. Um, but I've also seen with a lot of things where you look into it and everything, it's kind of like, oh well, maybe that's not exactly how it is.
No,
But
I understand completely. I
yeah,
understand there's news, especially in today's world, like it's so crazy. There's so many sources, there's so
yeah,
many people telling us what to believe, and there's CNN and there's Fox, and there's so many different avenues of information available that it's overwhelming at times. But I think the important thing is to like look at also try to look at the core and the people who support Donald Trump, because when you're like, and I'm not telling you how to feel, I'm just telling you how I feel about how you feel, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like you support Trump as a trans person, but you're also kind of standing right there with his base and his supporters, who many of them are actually very homophobic or transphobic or racist. Like that's just not every Trump supporter is a terrible racist person. I mean, I'm not going to
yeah,
say that, but it's also true that there's a good amount of them that are bad people.
yeah,
And that don't want you to have your rights, that don't want you to grow up as a happy trans boy. Um, and so I think that's also part of the problem with it's okay to agree with Trump on some things, agree, oh, he's doing things for the economy, but when you're looking at what sending, what his message is and how he's conveying that message to people, that it's divisive and hurtful to our community.
yeah. I mean, I'll have to look more into the military thing,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, personally, that's just my view on it, I guess.
Sure, sure. I totally understand. And I mean, the great thing is we all are entitled to our own opinions, right?
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
how do you feel about the Trump healthcare thing that happened, I think, back in June, where the Trump administration wanted to block or make it harder for transgender individuals to access healthcare? Are you familiar about kind of what he said to the Supreme Court?
yeah. So from what I've heard, he was trying to make it in like religious private hospitals. They could deny health care, not in like, I don't know, you just walk into a hospital, you're bleeding or whatever. They can't really say no about that kind of stuff. But if it is um like a religious hospital, they are allowed to deny uh like service. I don't think that's in life threatening cases. I think it's just reassignment surgery. I could be wrong. I'll have to look into a little bit more. That's what I've heard.
Mm.
Um, but also, we again don't really believe in like free healthcare, so he wants to also make it so you have to pay for your own surgeries, and we support that.
Um, so I guess I'll ask: have you done anything healthcare related? Have you done any procedures or anything for yourself in your trans journey to transition?
Yeah, so I'm on a blocker. I take It's a shot and it stops puberty. Uh, I take it every 3 months, and yeah, I'm not on anything else.
And and I guess so. We're talking about the free aspect of it. What about the trans people, your trans brothers and sisters who aren't in a position of privilege to afford that service to them? What would you tell them? Like what would you say to someone who wants to transition, who's just like you? Maybe they're a 13-year-old boy or girl going through the same things that you're going through, but they don't have the access to healthcare that you were afforded.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I'm very very fortunate to have access to what I do have, um, but I just can't. It's kind of I can't support like all the kind of free stuff because of how it ends up what it turns into. It's hard, but I just think it's better, if that kind of stuff isn't free, which makes it harder for people. But and
So
also, I guess I come from a pretty good household and everything, but I do believe in I guess, working to where you want to get.
Even something as essential as your identity, as something that like is you to the core, that if people can't afford it, then it's kind of sucks for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I'd love it if everybody got free stuff, but I can't. If we found a way to make it work, then I'd be all for it. But in the places it has been tried, it's all just come crashing down, and I can't support that as of right now. If we find another way, a better way, I'm all for it. But I just can't support it because of what it turns into.
Well, I'm not going to dive too deep into like the whole healthcare as an overall issue. I want to stay focused on trans healthcare, but I don't know. I don't have the numbers, but I don't think offering free transition surgery or hormones to everyone who's trans would be that much of a cost economically. I mean, there's not percentage wise. There's not many trans people in the United States.
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's go back to what Trump actually did though with the religious institute or the religious hospitals being able to deny healthcare or transitions. So you agree with that because you believe? Do you agree with this because you believe religious doctors have the right to say no to that, to say no to something that to transitioning because it goes against their beliefs?
Look, I'm an atheist. I don't agree with those beliefs, but I do believe in the freedom of religion. It's kind of harsh to say, but I guess you could go anywhere else. If there's a local religious hospital or whatever, there's probably not another one that will accept you and can't say no too far away. But yeah, I do believe in freedom of religion. Again, I don't agree with everything like what they say, but you can't take somebody's right away to that.
Yeah. Do you think that these kind of laws end up being more divisive and cause more divisiveness between people because instead of everybody just being able to go to the doctor or the hospital that's closest to them, now we have to drive away from the one that's religious because they're not going to perform the surgery. Do you think that like it'd be better if everyone was just able to go to the doctor as they believe or as they wish, and religion beliefs are set aside?
I mean, yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, that would be really cool. But I feel like you just can't take somebody's right away to say no. It would be a lot easier and everything. But, I just don't think it's possible, I guess, I don't know, one day maybe in a great society. But I believe in, I guess saying no if you believe something's wrong. I don't share the belief, but I just don't see it. If it was like, oh, I can kill gay people because I don't believe in it, that's a little different. But I don't see this as a very harmful thing. It's not great, but I just don't see it as a very harmful thing.
I'm trying to put into words the overall bigger picture of it as it being harmful, because if we were to boil it down, it's promoting, in my idea, it's promoting transphobia by allowing anyone to reject someone on the basis of their orientation or their gender identity. To say no to that, isn't that if there's a society, if we're all sitting in a bucket of water and we're now allowing religious doctors in that bucket to say no, then it's just creating more transphobia in that bucket, in that pond, right? Like, do you think that too, or do you think it's possible?
Again, like I'd like it to be possible. I just don't think it's reasonable. Um, there's always another doctor you could go to, and again, if everybody could just get along one day and be like, oh yeah, I'll do this surgery or I'll give you these hormones for you, then that would be great. But I also think it's people's right to say no, and it's not gonna change tomorrow. Not everybody's gonna be accepting of this, and I'd love it if it could change, but again, you can't take away somebody's right to say no to that kind of stuff. That's my take on it.
Let me ask: Is Trump and his administration the the person that you see as the pioneer of change, the person or the people who will lead us to that society that does get to a point where everyone's accepting of each other?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, I don't think he's 100% the most like the most, go LGBT, but he has done a lot. I don't, yeah, again, I don't think he's the most 100%, gonna be fighting for us on the front line. But I support a lot of what he does. Um, again, like I said, I don't feel like I have to agree with 100% of somebody's policies to support them. Um, but yeah, I think, at the end of the day, he is in favor of us and he will fight for us.
What are your thoughts on him not tweeting or making any kind of statement about Pride? The past three, I think he might have done it the first year he was in office, but the past 3 years he hasn't done so much as make a tweet saying Happy Pride, on June 1st. How does that sit with you?
I've never really thought of that. I mean, it would be nice, but I just don't see it as that much of an issue, I guess. Not really a necessity. Again, it would be nice, but he has also done a lot for the community. So,
like what has he done for the community in your point of view that's been good?
Well, he launched a globalized campaign to decriminalize homosexuality. His administration.
That is true. You're right.
His administration tried to eliminate AIDS and HIV, and gave 20,000 uninsured Americans, gay Americans, free access to treatment for HIV and AIDS. There's more. I can think of some. Passed the anti-LGBT. He signed a bill that prohibits discrimination of LGBT people in the workplace.
I don't think he did that. I think he was actually against that. It was the Supreme Court. If we're talking about the same thing, it was back in the end of June this past year, right? Mm-hmm. It was the Supreme Court who struck down a law that said you cannot be fired, or who made it a federal law that you cannot be fired for being gay. Because before this law was passed, before the Supreme Court made this decision, there were some states where you were able to be fired on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Obviously not here in California where we both are, but there were states like Texas and Alabama where you could walk into work and be fired for being gay or trans. And the Supreme Court was the one that voted on solidifying that law. And I believe, because I made a few TikToks on this, Trump was actually disappointed with that decision. Trump was upset that the Supreme Court and two of the Republican justices actually voted in favor of having that law, of having those protections, and Trump was disappointed in them, from my knowledge. So I would encourage you to double check that. I, of course, will double check after this as well, but that's what I think happened from my knowledge of the scenario.
Yeah, so what I heard is he had to sign that. He could have, been against it and declined, but he didn't come up with it or anything. But it's the Supreme Court, but he had to sign it. It had to go through him first. So yeah.
But the Supreme, okay, maybe he signed it, maybe he didn't. But the Supreme Court was the one that initiated it, and I guess maybe he was pressured to sign it. Maybe he signed it, maybe he didn't. I'm not under that mindset. I'm under the mindset that I'm a C student, so I'm not the smartest at everything. I just read a lot of things, but I believe that the Supreme Court passed it 5-4 vote. Trump was upset. I don't know if Trump was involved or not, but of course I will double check. The comments might be able to correct me. If anyone knows, okay, so SCOTUS is independent. So the Supreme Court of the United States is independent. Thank you, Comrade Shade. Okay, so they say that the SCOTUS is independent and that Trump did not need to sign his approval for this law.
Yeah. that's not what I heard. I can double check, of course,
Mhm.
but if I'm going off of what I heard, at the end of the day, he signed it and he made that happen. So I will check, of course, but.
Do you remember where you got your information from? Because I know I got mine. I remember making the TikTok. I green screened an NBC News article. Do you remember where you got yours?
No, I've been hearing that around for a while, and I can double check, and I will make a TikTok when I find where it says that or find otherwise. But yes, I will get on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, so why don't you just tell the audience one more time, remind them who you are, and everything like that, and your social media, or your page.
Yeah, I'm Noah, and I run an account with my friends called it's a slur. I'm not gonna say it. For Trump, the T slur for Trump. If you just type that in on TikTok, we haven't really expanded to anything else yet, but yeah.
Okay, and let me ask you one thing. Have you, you're in California. Have you ever been openly trans in another state? Like, have you ever been to like Alabama or just somewhere where it's a little more red?
No.
No. Okay. No. Are you interested in ever going there?
Probably not Alabama, but I don't know. Maybe in the future, move out of California.
Okay. And are you worried at all about people committing hate crimes on trans people, people who are transphobic? Like where is that on your radar in terms of issues that the world needs to address?
It's always, it's a concern. It can be scary. There's no denying that it can be scary. I guess just have to be careful. I'm scared as a trans person. It's hard being trans in like America and everything, but I guess I support who I do because I believe he will change some things. He will fight to change that.
Do you believe Trump is the best option, the best person right now to better the trans community?
Right now? Yes, right now. Not too happy about everybody else in the picture, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking to me today. I mean, if the audience knows and everyone knows, I'm of the complete opposite. I'm not a Trump supporter in the slightest, but I think these conversations are important, at least just to hear other people's sides, hear what they have to say, and hear why they think what they think. And so I want to thank you, Noah, for coming on and doing this today. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody listening that joined the live stream. I love you all for being here, and I hope everybody has a great evening. Bye-bye. Bye.
Do I? Okay.
Yeah, you can exit out.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here. I did not realize that they were like so young that they were. I knew they were young, but I didn't realize they were like 13 years old young. So that was a little bit of a stop. But thank you for being here. I interesting. I think there's a lot we could work with there. Obviously, a very, very young person, and there's a lot of growth that can be done in those formative years. 13, I would take that with a grain of salt. His views, because again, he is super young. But yeah, hopefully we'll open up. Hopefully we open up his mind to the better. I love you all. Thank you and have a good night. This will be posted tomorrow as a podcast in the podcast feed. You can find it at the Alphabet Mafia podcast on Apple and Spotify. Bye.